Hello, Trinity friends. I'm taping this after a short walk this Friday morning. And if you haven't been out, I hope you do get out because there are signs of new life everywhere. And we may be practicing social distancing, but those signs of new life outside are just reflections of the new life that we've been promised once again this Easter. Today, my thoughts on the gospel reading are this. This gospel reading is often called the Walk to Emmaus, and many of us have heard it before. This story is only found in Luke's gospel, and it comes right after the Easter story. In fact, it takes place later in the day on Easter Sunday. No one really knows where Emmaus was, but from the story we know that it was about 7 miles from Jerusalem. You could almost see the two disciples as they walked. They were filled with sadness and loss and disappointment. They had hoped that Jesus would be the one to redeem Israel, to redeem the world. We don't know why they weren't with the other disciples. We only know that they were walking alone. They were no doubt exhausted after the last 3 days, Monday, Thursday, and Good Friday. Maybe it was the only thing they could think of to do. When Jesus asked them what they were talking about, they explained what had happened over the last few days. And the words that caught me were, "But we had hoped." They had hoped he would save the world. And on that day, all that was found was an empty tomb. But those words, "we had hoped," are filled with meaning. They were thinking of a future that they had imagined and hoped for that had not come to be. The promise they had heard turned out to be false. The future they had hoped for was, in effect, dead as they thought Jesus still was. These 4 words seem to be quite fitting for today. Maybe that's why they struck me. They describe some of what we are experiencing right now. It's true, there's a lot about our lives that is beautiful and inspiring and full of joy. But there is also disappointment, failure, and uncertainty, especially now. We are in this new kind of time. I'm getting tired of hearing this, but it's true. We either are, or know someone who is, or hear it all the time on the news, that everyone is growing more and more tired, frustrated, scared, sad, lonely, and even broke. And to top it off, we can't come together as friends or family or as a community of faith. Even that has been taken from us. I think of the dashed hopes of so many, students whose plans and futures are completely up in the air, families who can't be together at some of the most important moments of people's lives, jobs that have ended, and so many more. And then I think of the dashed hopes around possible treatments. Even though some of them out there were not proven or even sensible, it was still tempting to hold out just a little bit of hope, only to hear that research is proving even that wrong. We take comfort in Governor Walz's handling of Minnesota's response. But then, what if? We just don't know. But you know what? I'm kind of glad that Jesus doesn't show the 2 disciples who he is right away. And not because he was testing their faith or trying to scold them or anything like that, but because he was journeying with them. Literally, he was walking, journeying with them, and he was listening to it all. He listened to their retelling of the whole story. He heard their confusion and deep disappointment. He let them say it all. He knew that there were times when no amount of profound words can help. He knew that the time to comfort his friends would come. He knew the time to reveal who he was and where he was will come. And this is where we're at. Cleopas and his fellow traveler are us. They knew the story. They cared deeply about what had happened and what didn't happen, so they thought. They took the time to think about things and to be aware of their dashed hopes. And they didn't know that their eyes were closed until, when the time was right, Jesus opened them and they could see. We can't control who opens our eyes or when they might be opened. We are all on uncharted journey. And Luke invites us into this story. Isn't it interesting that Cleopas's travel companion doesn't have a name? Maybe that unnamed person is us. Wherever we are on our own journeys, even during these seemingly impossible times, the comforting thing is that Jesus is on our journey with us. Whether we can see him or not, Jesus listens to our doubts and worries and misgivings. Jesus listens and walks with us and doesn't stop until we see again and again that he is with us. Because he is. And God walks with us. God's love for us can never, ever change that. Even in isolation, far from loved ones and friends, we are never alone. And maybe this is why I walk so much. I'll never know. But I do know this. Christ is risen and walks with us. Alleluia and amen.